This is the Neuro Way to Practice podcast with Dr. Ted Arkfeld. In each episode, he shines the spotlight on patients who have achieved amazing results the Neuro way. Now, here's your host, Dr. Ted Arkfeld.
Okay, everybody, I'm Dr. Ted Arkfeld, and with us again, my trusted sidekick, my mentor in many areas of art neuro, Jake Cozens is with us. Jake, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Good to see you again, Dr. Arkfeld.
We've taken a few weeks off. Holidays tend to get in the way of important things like art neuro and Neuro Way to Practice podcasts, right, Jake?
They certainly do. And it usually seems like when we get around the holidays, that's when all the bad stuff happens or all the chaos happens. I should put it that way.
I could definitely agree to that.
Yeah.
Tonight's topic is something that I've really wanted to address for a while now, and it's something that I feel very passionate. And I just want to start off with this question, and I'm going to let you go with it and get some of your insights. Are we neglecting our female athletes at the junior high and high school level?
That's a very deep question, and I have numerous answers to that one. I think the quick answer is I could say, yeah, we probably are in many aspects. And I think that's probably why a lot of them have kind of pounded their chests a little bit more to be noticed. And I think that's a good thing. And, I think in some cases it's a good wake-up call. But I think so many have been left behind because they have been neglected. And as a result of that, they're not reaching their full potential. They're not, physically getting to the best they could, or perhaps, one of the things, they're being neglected is they're also, their health is neglected and their training is neglected. And I certainly seen that at a certain level, whether it was at ARP Neuro or whether it was at, my other company when I used to train a lot of the females. So I would say, in short, that's 100% true. And we could probably argue even beyond the female aspect that there's some of that neglect, but, predominantly, and I've seen that an imbalance on my end with the females for sure.
Yeah, from what I've seen here and working with the athletes at Gaylord, is that there seems to be a common scenario, is that at the junior high level, the girls really aren't exposed to weightlifting, and even if they are, that weightlifting room is pretty much the domain of the guys, and they're going to feel a little intimidated about going in there. I've definitely seen that at the high school level. I noticed it a couple years ago with our soccer players, with just little things like the inbounds where they got to throw the soccer ball over their head. And there was just weakness. Their upper body strength was abysmal, is the best way I can say it, because what they're doing during the drop-in practices or just the workouts, it's all drills, it's all running. Their legs are definitely defined and in shape, but as we both know, that you're a much better athlete and you said the word balance. You got balance between the upper and lower, and you can run faster if your chest and your torso and everything are developed in your arms. I mean, that's the reason you see these Olympic sprinters. I mean, they look like they should be NFL fullbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm not advocating that the girls look like that, but another thing that I have noticed is, especially at the high school level, an unbelievable amount of knee ACL tears, meniscal tears, knee problems, and repeat knee problems. So we've had a couple girls, stud athletes, that went down with an ACL tear and either retore that ACL or tore the other one on the opposite leg. And in this day and age, it should not be occurring. We can do muscle testing on the glutes and the abductors, and there has been a research study that's shown that if those glutes and abductors are weaker, and I can't remember what the percentage, because they go by percentages, that there is a higher propensity for an ACL tear. We also have a software called Kinetisense where we can run them through a screening process and see if they have a higher rate propensity, again, of having an ACL tear. So, are you seeing that with your other ARP Neural clients in the clinics that a population of female athletes at the high school level, and maybe even at the college level, with ACL tears?
These days, I don't know if I've seen it as much, but I will say, in the course of the time when I was training for several years, I mean, it was definitely an imbalance between male and female of who had or who perhaps was neglected in growing up and going into their sports because there was just a lot more attention focused on the guys. I will say, I think in the recent, I have seen a different change of pace, so to speak, giving the girls more attention. I think that's a good thing. It's about time. But I still think there's a lot of catching up to do for sure.
I have talked to some coaches at the collegiate level, and they talk about the incoming freshmen, and the the percentage is still overwhelming that the incoming freshmen have not stepped into a weight room. Again, because they felt intimidated. They go in there and they got the big cookies in there, the football players, and they just felt intimidated. That wasn't the environment that they wanted to work out in.
Yeah.
And so when they hit college, they're not prepared. And then many times they don't even know how to lift or do a movement properly. And I think that sets the stage for an injury too. And this is one of the things that I have seen in at the strength and conditioning coaching level. And I mean, those guys do a wonderful job. But I think at many schools, they are very taxed, and quite honestly, some of them, um, how do I put this politically correctly? Um, they're not screening kids properly. They're not going in through like a functional movement screen, which we know that that's just huge. If you cannot move properly, do a proper squat with just your body weight, how are you supposed to be doing a proper squat with any
Right.
kind of weight? You can't expect that. Really, what it does, it just reinforces a bad behavior, and you're setting the tone for these kids to have an injury. I have seen that as
Yeah.
well. Um, and so I think the girls are not coming into college as strong as they should be. I think they're being neglected at the strength and conditioning level because emphasis is on the boys, or maybe the coaches. The coaches may not place a value on strength conditioning. That may be old school, and we don't want to do that. So this brings me to the next point is that we have put together some programs for girls in our area, and they're coming in, and we took them through a whole evaluation process where we did movement analysis and strength analysis, and then we did a RX scan on them, and we said, okay, hey, here's where there's a breakdown. Now, what's interesting is they did not have symptoms yet. They were preclinical basically, but their movement patterns were pretty faulty. And we did find scans, in the quads, in the hams, in the glute medials, and so we started placing them initially with us at 3 times a week, going through ARP Neuro procedures, squat, reverse lunges, to get them going. And then we dispensed a PRS unit and said, okay, follow Jake on the PRS channel for YouTube, and that'll give you a good overall fitness using the PRS. And they've been doing that, and the results have been fantastic. We have 4 girls right now that the parents are renting the PRS units, and the girls come in 1 time a week, and we do an assisted stretching, an adjustment, and then we make sure that they're doing things properly. And actually, Libby runs them through a workout following you right in the
Nice.
clinic. But we're testing them to make sure they're doing things properly. But the key is your PRS workout channel on YouTube is what we're trying to accomplish with these kids, and they love it. I hear every time, man, Jake really gave me. I mean, it's like they know you personally. And then Jake, I tell you, when they find out that I do know you personally, you know Jake? Yeah, I know Jake. Okay,
That's funny.
it is. It's but what you did there was amazing, and that's how I think one of the ways we can get these girls ready for. So the 4 girls that I'm training right now it's for spring sport for soccer, and I've already seen major improvements in their movements. So you want to comment about home use of PRS and everything like that?
Absolutely. So a couple of things that kind of spark my interest that you said that I love hearing, and then some things that are still a little disturbing. First of all, it's great to hear that you have been able to bring the confidence in these girls to get them into a position where they can have good form and actually work out properly. And I will say that's actually a good thing. They're ahead of the game, because one of the problems I had when I had a lot of guys coming in, certainly from like the collegiate level, and they've developed all these bad forms that their coaches never really corrected. And it's hard to unravel a lot of that. So in some aspects, I actually liked the case where someone came from scratch and didn't know anything, because I will say some of my best clients were women, because they didn't have the ego to say I can do all this weight, and they were more likely to listen to me because they didn't come from a background where they were taught as much. So I love to
Mhm.
hear that they're getting something out of the PRS workouts. And to that point, if you do happen to have this take home unit and you're not utilizing it for that particular feature, you are grossly underestimating what that can do for you. So I'm glad to hear that you're using it. And, if more people would take advantage of that, they would see that, even if you do happen to like going to the gym, this is something that will, take you to another level. It will still contract your muscles and keep pressure off your joints, so you don't have to lift this heavy weight. It's also a good way of, like you were talking about, where as you're starting to develop your muscles and you're developing good form, you're essentially doing mostly body weight, but at the same time, you're adding to that. So you're getting that traditional strength training, again, without a lot of weight and putting pressure on the joints.
Well, it's safe.
Yeah.
We did have a girl last winter that actually had a concussion at our local high school here. She was doing maxes with the squat, and the strength and conditioning coach was out in another part of the gym, and she had too much weight on, and it took her all the way back, and she lost her balance and landed back and hit her head on the bar and concussed herself. Um, I think that the RX for in office and then the PRS is really the new wave of the new technology for workouts. I mean, we've seen it with a couple of the other high school kids, football players, where we put one kid, we put 15 pounds of muscle on him when he was using the PRS for 3 months, and he hit it hard. His name's Isaac Collins, and we did a podcast about him a while ago. So I think it's safe for the girls to do this. And there's an aspect that I think everybody forgets. There is self-esteem issues with these girls that if they're a little bit overweight, they may be embarrassed by that. And there's some girls that they're just going to grind through. They're going to go into the weight room. They're going to get their workout. They don't care. And I mean, you got to love
Yeah.
those girls, okay? But they're the minority. The majority are the ones that have a little self-esteem issue right now, and they don't want to go in and try to do anything. And so this is where I think the PRS workouts and the channel that you developed is so crucial, because they can do it at home. And that's the wonderful feedback that I'm getting, that they're able to do it at home in the comfort of their home, and they can carve out time, because they're busy like everybody else, and they get home, have dinner, and they typically go downstairs or whatever and get their
Yeah.
workout in.
Yes.
again.
So it's funny you bring that up because I kind of go back and remember when I was in high school and you mentioned, how the weight room, it is sort of like a frat boy club. And I'm hoping some of that has changed. It doesn't sound in many cases like it has. And so it was rare for somebody to come into, our weight room that we suspected was ours, whether it was wrestling or whether it was football. You rarely saw another female in there. And I mean, that was throughout the day. So yeah, to your point, this is fantastic because now you don't have that pressure, you don't have that nuisance that you would in high school, and you're still able to, make sure you're balancing all your muscles. So yeah, I love hearing that.
Well, what I like is that, and you brought it up at the beginning, is the potential. I mean, I view my role as more than just a chiropractor that's going to get them out of pain and try to get them moving better. With all the things that we have, I really want them to succeed. I love it when we have cross country runners come in, and this has happened pretty much. We've never had a track and field or cross country runner that came to see us for an injury that did not, we call it PR, personal
Mm.
record. They'll go out and they'll come back and they'll go, hey, I PR'd. I said, I expect you to. That's the expectations here at this clinic. Like we're some major university. Our expectations are that you are going to PR,
I love
but
it.
that's what we really do. And it's so neat to see these girls just light up and have that sense of ownership because this is something I feel strongly about. We have to help them through this journey, through the self esteem, and help them realize their full potential. Um, I found out a couple weeks ago that one of our really stud female athletes has not been able to play basketball yet because, and I'm going to go off on just a little bit. It's going to go into a rant, basically, like I've been doing on TikTok. But
I love
um,
those, by the way. You need to bring more of those back.
well, I will. Well, I got to get worked up to do it, but I'm
I
going to
mean, if
do
it
it.
helps, I'll give you a call and I'll say something to fire you up, and then I'll say, all right, go do your TikTok video.
Kind of like a virtual slap me in the face a few times, get
Whatever
me
it
going.
takes. Let's do it.
All right. Well, okay. So this girl she was diagnosed with patella tendonitis, and like we talked about, there was no inflammation, no redness, no swelling, and they put her on the wrong treatment, and they being the physical therapist that she was seeing, and they I think she's now back playing, but she lost 3 or 4 weeks early on of training and getting ready for basketball. And I don't know if you can make that up with just traditional sprints and everything, because from a neurological point of view, you've got to get your joints and your muscles and your ligaments and everything ready for the individual movements that basketball requires and get your brain ready. And so I'm a little fearful that she may have a re-injury at some point. And that's going to just that's going to tank this girl. She has come back from injuries, but it gets really depressing for her because sports is this is her. This is what she does, and so I get concerned about our female athletes, and I do feel like is that I do feel like sometimes we are neglecting them at the junior high and at the high school level. I feel like we're not preparing them properly to enter into college athletics. They're probably a year behind, sometimes 2 years behind other girls that have come from different programs where strength and conditioning was a mainstay for everybody.
Yeah.
And that's the reason I love the PRS because it's not it's not intimidating, and we've just seen amazing results with it.
Boy, that's fantastic. And yeah, again, to that point, it is unfortunate because I have seen some improvement as well. I mean, I was talking about when I was in high school and it was rare to see females enter that realm. That's the exact opposite in the gym I go to now. You see a mix of guys and girls, sort of commingling in this what used to be predominantly guys,
Hmm.
and not just guys, but very, very outspoken, very personable, very, athlete type guys, a personality where, it probably was intimidating. So yeah, the PRS is, the fact that it's out there on the internet, you can actually see it. It doesn't even matter what area you're in. You actually have that right at the palm of your hands, quite literally in this case.
So, are you seeing with some of the other clinics that are neuro clinics? Are they doing anything like this with the PRS, where they're dispensing them out to help these girls get their training in offsite or at home?
I would say that you're probably the most hands-on with it. We do have other offices that still do like the workouts, and over the course of the years, when I had the original ones, when I did them, when I traveled and I was in the hotels, and I think I had several hundred on there. There was still quite a few that used them and was quite upset when I removed them. So, which is one of the reasons I'm slowly trying to bring some of those back. But they use them more on an individual level. So I'll get some doctors reaching out to me for their clients or getting me in touch with their clients. But what you have brought to the table, I think, is unique, and I wish more would adopt it. Is you're literally putting it and bringing it into your practice, and you're introducing it that way, where your patients now can, they can be treated by you, and not only that, you're giving them the preemptive strike, so to speak, of saying, hey, we're gonna fix it before it even happens. That
Hmm.
way you're not back here for all the bad reasons. Now you can come in here for, improving your game, and like you said, building PRs. How many chiropractic offices can say that their mission statement, or one of the things they expect, is that their athletes come out of here with a PR? That's pretty impressive. I wish more had that mindset.
We got to get more to doing that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's one of the reasons for this podcast. Not only is to educate the public, that do not know that there's this type of technology out there, and to an outdated model of maybe pain meds and physical therapy that have not stayed up to date on research. But we got to get this in the hands of other practitioners too. That's just it's absolutely crucial. So I got to go back to a clinical aspect and just see if you agree, because we are seeing, not only just in our female population, but with everybody, a lot of glute med weakness that's contributing to so many things: low back pain, hip pain, and even knee pain. And so, I just want to kind of confirm what we're doing is appropriate. So, let's say we've scanned, we've got a weak glute med. What's the protocol you would recommend for the treatment aspect?
Yeah, weak glute med is definitely a common one that we've seen. And when in doubt, I would always go on glute med and then kind of work from there. We have been working on. I've been sharing a lot of it, in the course of the last couple of months, since I realized the success of it, is the middle cross patterns. And even though it's not really targeting the glute med, I have discovered that middle cross patterns will still help that glute med fire better. I'll give you an instance that I was working with an athlete actually this morning, and he happens to be a professional athlete, and he has the same issues. And I would argue a lot of the professional athletes do struggle with glute med issues, whether it's not firing properly or it's just weak in general. The middle cross pattern has helped him activate it, whether it's through balance, helping him to maneuver the way he's supposed to. He happens to be a quarterback, so doing some of the shuffle in the back, dropping back from the snap. So the middle cross essentially is where I would go to these days, and I'll talk about that one. But then some of the more traditional ones that I still think are effective. So middle cross, and forgive me, I don't have the Stretch Armstrong with me today, but I can kind of explain through it. And if your listeners are just listening, it won't matter anyway. But middle cross, essentially black pad on the adductor, and then it goes to the opposite pec minor. And then you just essentially mirror that on the other side, and representing, I guess, the old school core. This is now the middle cross dysfunction or pattern, so to speak. So that re-engages those, those two hypertonic muscles will help re-engage some of those breakdowns that happen to be within that that middle cross dysfunction.
So even though a pad isn't directly on the glute med, you're still getting therapeutic benefits, what you're saying.
At 100%. And we've been preaching that for quite some time. This particular pattern has literally spoken to a lot of the things we said in the past. Sometimes when you search, it's like, oh yeah, my glute med's hurting, or my knee's hurting, and it happens to be the area of pain. And there's not a big wow factor. Sometimes there is a big wow factor. With this one, it takes that thought out of it and says, we think that there's an 80% chance that some of that dysfunction is involving your middle cross patterns, even if it's even if you have ankle pain, so to speak. And so a lot of things we've been doing recently is running things through middle cross, and we found some great success by doing that. And again, not placed on the area of pain, trying to fix whatever dysfunction that potentially was. And 9 times out of 10, it's been middle cross patterns or some sort of middle cross dysfunction.
And that goes right into, one of the basic premises of chiropractic is that we always felt that our job was structure equals function, and that find the cause. So it sounds like you're finding the cause of the problem. And I'm not so certain that that's talked about enough nowadays. I think that somebody blows out their knee, female athlete blows out the ACL, and they go, well, the mechanism was, there's a rapid deceleration and thing. But why was it that she was able to do that? I don't know, 100 times, 150, 500 times. What caused it then? It wasn't just that maneuver, but it had to be a breakdown in muscular function that created stresses on that joint and ultimately on that ligament, and that was it. I know that part of the purpose for the scan is to find out what is the cause of the problem, and I think that's where our neuro doctors and offices have such an advantage over those that don't have ARP neuro, is that we really can scan. And then what I love, absolutely love this, is that when I do my history, call it a history with the patient anymore, it's an interview. I'm kind of like on a first date with them, because I'm trying to find out about them, what's going on. And then when you do your exam, where you're doing your orthopedic test, your neurological test, your movement assessment. And by the way, we take and incorporate a RX scan with all our new patients. That's our myofascial scan. And so we really are able to pick up areas that sometimes the orthopedic test or neurological test isn't finding. Sometimes they correlate really nice, but that's my job as a provider, is try to find the cause of the pain and then successfully treat it. So I love what you're talking about, the middle cross, because while we may be thinking locally, we got to treat globally. And so I love that. Hey, this is pretty good session tonight, Jake.
I absolutely love the topic, because I do see a lot of I guess improvement on this particular topic. But you kind of bring to light that there's still, you said they're a couple years behind, there's still work to be done. So the fact that you're taking a sort of a hands-on approach and you're using technology to do that, not only are you getting them ready for their to their next level and even college level, but you're educating them on things and parts of their body that I never got when I was growing up, even though I was a part of that weight room and that part of that culture. So it's good to see this, because hopefully this will take off where other doctors will embrace it, and other patients that are looking for doctors will say, hey, where can I get this technology that I heard about? Because that's where I want to get my kid to the next level.
Well, and there's one other aspect to this too, is we've got to look at the nutritional aspect. And coming right around Christmas, January, February, I've seen historically female athletes start to get run down. They're getting more pale, they're fatigued, and they become anemic. And it's like, get some blood work done. What your iron levels are, and then let's get you going on nutritional supplementation. Um, Female athletes have a more direct route to being anemic than their male counterparts. So that's another thing that I would encourage doctors and mothers, fathers. If your female student athlete out there is complaining of being fatigued and tired, get some blood work done, and it could possibly be that they're becoming anemic, and that's not going to help with their performance at all.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right, Jake, we're at the 30-minute mark, and I think we covered it all.
Boy, time flies
It does.
when I'm with you.
So,
It's
all right.
always good to see you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Neuro Way to Practice podcast, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Take care.